As you may or may not be aware, Japan is purported to have the highest proportion of elderly citizens in the world. Compared to the world's total population of 65-year-olds at 8.9%, Japan topples this figure by almost 4 times. At almost a third of the country's total population at 28.6%, Japan far outages all other countries by at least 5.5%. Italy takes the silver medal for the second oldest country with 23%, followed by Finland in third at 21%. In 2010, Japan saw its first net decrease in population, meaning that the number of deaths outweighed the number of births. In more recent years though, the elderly population has seen significant shifts, with an increase of 2.3% from 26.3% in 2014 to 28.6% in 2018. Although this may seem small, it equates to a shift of almost 3 million people into the 65-year-old age bracket. Japan is also having less and less babies. In 2017, Japan recorded for the first time since they started tracking more than a century ago that there were fewer than 1 million births in an entire year. Today I'd like to discuss the potential reasons why this is happening, the problems it's caused, and finally how Japan is attempting to reverse it. There are many reasons and theories as to why this shift is happening in Japan, and it can be split into 2 major reasons: high life expectancy and low fertility rate. High life expectancy in Japan is a pretty straightforward one. Factors like improved nutrition, medical and pharma advancements, as well as improved living conditions have most definitely increased life expectancy. Moreover, the decades that followed the end of World War II led to massive economic boom, and people did what people do in good economic times. The low fertility rate, on the other hand, has multiple reasons that are all somewhat interrelated. Japan has been under the replacement threshold, which is 2.1 children born for each woman for several decades. The main factors contributing to such a low birth rate include major shifts in culture and the economy, like increased participation of women in the workforce, decline in both wages and lifetime employment, as well as an increase of roughly 40% to non-regular employees, have left many individuals unable to commit to marriage due to their financial position. Fatigue and overworked. You may have heard the term karoshi, which literally translates to overwork deaths. The 3 most common medical causes of karoshi deaths are heart attacks and strokes due to stress, and starvation diet, or the inability to eat due to stress. Both cultural shifts and overwork has led to many not having the money or the energy to go out and date, which has led to a decrease in married couples and consequently kids. Another major factor is increasing virginity rates. The number of virgins in 1992 was about 6.2% of women and 8.8% of men were classified as having no sexual experience in the 30 to 34 age bracket. In 2015, however, those numbers jumped to 11.9 and 12.7 respectively. If you want us to take a deep dive into virgins and why there are so many in Japan, all you have to do to let us know is move your arm that's connected to your hand and then use your finger to click on the like button. That's all you have to do to see it. Pretty good deal, right? Then we'll do the rest on our side. The last reason is the phenomenon of soushoku-kei danshi, or herbivore men. These men are not interested in finding a girlfriend or getting married or even having sex. Rather, they're satisfied with spending their time in online communities. These reasons combined add up and have resulted in the world's lowest fertility rate. Combined with a growing elderly population, you can see that Japan's population looks like an ice cream cone from McDonald's. As you can see, the 40 to 55-year-old segment makes up a big chunk of the overall population, and as these people start to retire, the issues that I'll go over through you now are only going to worsen. So even though there are dozens of issues that have arisen from the graying population, I'll just go with the top 3 with you because, as you know, you do have a bit of a short attention span. Although it's hardly noticeable in megacities like Tokyo and Osaka, the decline is highly visible in the country's more rural areas. For example, in 2002 to 2017, more than 7,000 public schools across Japan shut their doors, the majority in rural areas, as the country's birth rate remained well below the replacement level. As more and more schools close and other services disappear or become harder to access, young families will have even more of a reason to flock to the cities. Because of this, country towns like Owase in the Mie prefecture have an elderly population of over 40% of the 17,000 residents. As more people leave, more houses become empty, more family businesses close because no one's there to take over the business, and the local economy shrinks a little more. As Japan's population grows older, the higher the healthcare spending becomes per capita. In the year 2000, spending per capita was only 7% of GDP. However, in 2016, that number has risen to almost 11%. The growing number of elderly people is no doubt overwhelming the current healthcare system, with many corporate health insurance unions facing quite serious financial conditions, and some of which have been forced to dissolve. Currently, elderly people pay for roughly 10% of the healthcare premiums, with 90% being covered by the health insurance companies, or in other words, the non-elderly working class. As a percentage of the elderly people rise, so too will the health insurance premiums the working class will have to pay to cover the increase in healthcare demand. Tax dollars of every working man, woman and, well, not child actually, contribute to looking after their elderly. However, with a shrinking working population and a growing retiree population, there are worries that there will be further tax increases to cover that gap. The only response to insufficient revenue is to further increase taxes and steadily raise the eligibility rate from 65 to 70 almost certainly soon, and then 75 possibly not long after that. Living beyond the ripe old age of 100 years old is not quite the feat it used to be, with Japan's centenarian population over 67,000. No wonder the youths are worried. The Japanese government has been hard at work at addressing these issues, and they can be categorized into three major areas. So number one is incentives and benefits for banging. In order to encourage the fertility rate, the government is supporting things like childcare, cash benefits for parents who have children, longer maternity leave, and even state-sponsored dating services. Number two is immigration. Although public opinion shows low support for immigration as a way to compensate for labour shortages, Prime Minister Abe has recently relaxed its migration laws and allowed more highly skilled workers, as well as more international students, to live and work in Japan. Then number three is work-life balance. As we've covered in our recent resignation agency video linked down below, Japan doesn't have the greatest working condition in terms of balancing private life with work. As mentioned in the video, Japan is trying to place more importance on less time at work, with stricter overtime regulations and minimum days employees must take. Many companies are also introducing work-from-home policies, as well as flexible or shorter working hours. Do you guys think that that's enough? If not, what other things do you think that Japan could implement to help? Anyway, that's it for this time. Thank you very much for watching all the way to the end. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to see more Japan related content, and also give us a like. It really does help with the YouTube algorithm. Anyway, thank you so much again, and we'll see you next time.